The day was April 30th, 1945. Adolf Hitler, the leader of Germany, alongside his newly wedded wife, Eva Braun, headed to his underground bunker. A few moments later, he took out a cyanide capsule and poisoned her. Then he brought out his own pistol and shot himself in the skull. هذه قصة أدولف هتلر. أعطى الله له الملك وعندما ظلم الناس أخذه الله منهم وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله لا يملي الظالم حتى إذا أخذه لم يفلته. Hitler was born in 1889 after his father retired as a state customs official. Young Hitler spent most of his childhood in his hometown. Not wanting to follow in his father's footsteps as a civil servant, he began struggling in high school until he dropped out. When his mother Clara died in 1908, Hitler moved to Vienna, but he was rejected from Vienna's Academy of Fine Arts. He therefore earned a living by painting and also doing menial jobs such as sweeping snow. Lonely, isolated, and a voracious reader, Hitler became interested in politics. When the First World War broke out in 1914, Hitler quickly joined the German army. Germany was now in chaos. Kaiser William II was the Emperor of Germany and the Commander-in-Chief of the German Armed Forces. By November 1918, it had become clear to the German people that losing was inevitable. In response, the Imperial Navy, previously loyal to the Kaiser, rebelled. Meanwhile, there was also significant unrest at home. Having lost the support of the military, Kaiser William II was forced to abdicate his throne. Power was thus handed to a new government known as the Weimar Republic. The new government signed the Treaty of Versailles that ended the war. This treaty forced the country to pay out billions in reparations, give up its colonies in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific, and to cede 30% of its territories to other nations. The victorious powers, led by the United States, Britain, and France, declared that Germany was solely responsible for the outbreak of the First World War. Its weapons were largely confiscated. Its navy was stripped of large vessels. The defeat in the war came as a huge shock to the German people, leading to a theory that the brave German army had been stabbed in the back by the politicians of the Weimar Republic and the Jews. Many Germans felt that their country has received a very harsh deal, and in return, they resented the Weimar Republic for agreeing to such conditions. Many people were also led to believe that Jews in the army and government forced the surrender. These baseless accusations discredited the Weimar Republic. Having dropped out of art school and only risen to the position of a corporal during the First World War, young Hitler found himself increasingly drawn to politics. Frustrated by Germany's defeat, Hitler therefore joined a new political organization called the German Workers' Party, which was later named the Nationalist Socialist German Workers' Party, or simply the Nazi Party. The party's main aim was to overthrow the Weimar Republic. The cost of living rose rapidly, and when the government sought to pay reparations simply by printing more money, the value of the German currency rapidly declined, leading to hyperinflation. At the currency's lowest point, 4.2 trillion German marks were worth a single US dollar. Consumers needed a wheelbarrow to carry enough paper money in order to buy just a loaf of bread. The Nazis capitalized on this by criticizing the ruling government. Throughout the 1920s, Hitler gave speech after speech, claiming that unemployment, rampant inflation, and economic stagnation in post-war Germany would continue until there was a total revolution in German life. Most problems could be solved, he explained, if communists and Jews were driven out of the country. His fiery speeches, often in beer halls, attracted disgruntled Germans in thousands. Many dissatisfied former army officers in Munich also joined the Nazis. Therefore, in November 1923, Hitler led a coup against the Weimar Republic, in which he declared himself the chancellor of a new authoritarian regime. This event failed because of lack of military support. He was arrested and sentenced to 5 years in prison. He was, however, released in 1924, spending less than a year in prison. After his release, he set about rebuilding the Nazi party and gaining power through the democratic election process. The publicity surrounding Hitler's failed coup and his subsequent trial turned him into a national hero. Hitler was now famous all over Germany. Hitler's popular message saw the Nazis gain seat in the German Reichstag or parliament. In the 1932 German election, the Nazis won more seats in the parliament than any other political party. Hitler was narrowly defeated in the presidency by Paul von Hindenburg. Hindenburg appointed Hitler as Chancellor instead. By the time President Hindenburg of the Weimar Republic died in 1934, Hitler was able to consolidate his power and declared himself Führer or leader. Under Nazi rule, all other political parties were banned. All judges had to swear an oath of loyalty to the Führer, and all lawyers had to join the Nazi Lawyers Association. Joseph Goebbels ran the Ministry of Propaganda, whose job was to convince the German people to embrace Nazi rule. This was achieved through the control of press, radio, rallies, and sporting events. There was limited resistance to the Nazis, primarily because the police state was so effective at crushing dissent. Over the next few years, Hitler consolidated his power and used his position to persecute minority groups in Germany, including Jehovah's Witnesses, Gypsies, and people with mental and physical disabilities, and most especially the Jews. Jews in Europe has been persecuted and discriminated against for hundreds of years. They were held responsible for the death of Christ. Hitler's Germany was now ready to expand and reclaim lost territories. He built up Germany's military. In 1938, he annexed Austria, claiming his intentions were to unite all German-speaking people in one German state. His actions was actually against the Treaty of Versailles, signed by the leaders of the Weimar Republic by the end of the First World War. The same year, he got several European leaders to sign off on the Munich Agreement, which gave a portion of Czechoslovakia to Germany in order to avoid war. Still not satisfied, he seized all of Czechoslovakia in 1939. Hitler's open aggression went unchecked as the United States was concentrated on internal politics at the time. Neither France nor Britain were also eager for confrontation. Therefore, on September 1st, 1939, Hitler invaded Poland. 2 days later, France and Britain declared war on Germany, effectively beginning the Second World War. Germany and the Soviet Union agreed not to attack each other, but Hitler saw this as a tactical maneuver in order to prevent the Soviet Union from invading him unless he decided to attack. At the beginning of the Second World War, Hitler quickly conquered France. He then went against his own words and launched a massive invasion on the Soviet Union. Known as Operation Barbarossa, the invasion quickly went well. However, the sheer scale of the resources and weapons available to the Soviets meant that despite a weak beginning, a long-term war favored the Soviet Union. The British somehow managed to hold on until the United States entered the war in 1942. With Germany severely weakened by its long-term campaign against the Soviet Union, the entrance of the US prepared its allies for victory. The Soviets then encircled the capital city of Germany, Berlin, in order to capture the Führer. Knowing that he would be disgraced and convicted of war crimes, Hitler decided to commit suicide. The German armed forces then surrendered unconditionally in the West on May 7th, 1945, and in the East on May 9th, 1945. By the end of the Second World War, an estimated 60 to 80 million people had died, including up to 55 million civilians, and numerous cities in Europe and Asia were reduced to rubble.